Guys, thanks for checking in again at RT Repairs. So today we wanted to do a video because we got a question from someone yesterday about how hard it was to do a timing belt on any of the Volvo motors, the 5-cylinder or the 6-cylinder motor. And quite honestly, the 2.5 liter and the 2.9 liter, they come in turbocharged and non-turbocharged, and quite honestly, either motor is very easy to work on. The design of that motor is such that, basic tools, you can do a timing belt, you can do your spark plugs, you can do your ignition coils. The oil trap is a little hard to get to in both motors because you have to remove the intake manifold to get to it, but it's nothing that a mechanic that knows how to use a ratchet and a socket can't get off. There's a little time consuming when you first do it because there's tight spaces to work in. Even with this XC90, there's tight spaces to work in, but you can do it. The timing tools that lock the camshafts in place and lock the valve cover in place when you do a new valve cover on it, those used to be very expensive. 4 or 5 years ago, that tool set was $300 and $400. Now you can buy that tool set on eBay, $47. $50. The prices have gone down immensely. We've got our toolkit. I'm going to pull it out and show it to you guys when we do this job here in the next couple days, which for this one behind me here, we're going to be doing the timing belt and water pump. We've got the oil trap assembly coming in, which will show you how we put all that back together. We've already done the plugs. We've done some coils on this one behind us. This car's actually got a really good pedigree to it. We picked this thing up in the Twin Cities here about 2 weeks ago. Full Carfax history. It's been maintained at the local Volvo dealer since day one. This car happens to have a transmission that's only got 40,000 miles on it. The car itself's got right around 190. The timing belt was done just about 10 years ago. That's why we're doing it now. It's got some cracks starting to show up in it. Looks like they did a Pcv cleaning, which for the cost of the PCV and the amount of labor it takes to get to it, don't clean them. Just buy another one. Yeah, you can clean them. People show you, there's YouTube videos of guys putting them in carb cleaner, putting them in all kinds of stuff to clean them out. Just buy another one. When they get to be where they're crusty and you get carbon buildup in them and everything else, yeah, you can see this, but you can't see what's happening in here. This can be clear, this can be clear. But if this is clogged, it doesn't matter. And for the cost of these, if you look at one for the cars, the passenger cars that have the 2.5, you're looking at anywhere from actually $26 Dorman makes one for I believe the 2.5. When you get into the 3.2, which is the V8, a little more pricey. 2.9 is the hardest to find. I found mine at VolvoWholesaleParts.com. I think it was like $40. Generally they're between 90 and Euro. FCP Euro makes a very good kit, and I think it's right around $200, something like that. But FCP Euro puts together, we're not sponsored by them, anything else, but they put together some really nice kits for really good prices. And they tell you what you need. If you're new to this, you can call them on the phone and say, hey, first time ever doing an oil trap on a Volvo, and tell them what you got. You can give them the VIN number. And they'll tell you everything you need to do the job, from cleaning supplies, tools, anything going to make your job easier, they're going to tell you. And they give you a lifetime warranty on your parts. Nobody does that. Again, we're not sponsored by them. I just got some really good deals through them. And, I really like the guys there. Customer service is top notch. But getting back to this one behind us, just recently had ball joints. All the suspension components have been gone through. Brand new tires. The tires alone on this thing are a couple $100 a piece. Interior's impeccable. Yeah, we've got a couple things. There's a cup holder we got to replace. I think one of the center vents is messed up. We're going to replace that. There are a couple dings on this thing, a couple small ones. We're going to show you how to do some paintless dent repair on those. We're going to buff this thing up and get it out of here. Once this one's done, we've got a Toyota Yaris that we need to do some brakes on. We got a couple scuffs on that one. We're going to show you how to get some paint scuffs off the side of it. Then we got our big workup that we're going to do, which is our Jeep Commander. That one's got a Dodge Hemi in it with 300,000 miles. Runs beautiful. Runs beautiful. We picked this one up for a really good deal. Got some bumper damage on the driver's side. We're going to pull that bumper cover off, show you how to redo a bumper cover that's been flexed where the paints may have chipped off, but it's not torn or anything. There's no dents. There's nothing else in it. So we're going to show you how to fix the paint on that and fix the paint on that. We've got to replace the grill assembly. Really easy to do on those vehicles. Pretty much just snap clips, but still show you how to do it. We got to replace the headlight on it. We've got some hoses to do on that one. I think the transmission hose, which is known to leak on that model is pretty much the same as a Grand Cherokee. I think it replaced the Wagoneer. It was their attempt at bringing it back out, but it's got a quadramatic transmission in it, all-wheel drive, and it's got the Hemi. And anyone that's ever worked on a Hemi shoved in a Jeep SUV, there's little room for anything. I mean, to do the starter on that thing, you got to pull the drive shaft out the bottom on the driver's side just to get your hand up in there, and maybe if you got good small enough fingers, reach the bolts on the starter so you can undo everything from below, and then you got to try to go to the driver's wheel well and finagle it out a hole about that big when the starter's about that big. So, but we've already done the starter on this thing a few months ago, so we're not going to do that starter again. But what we are going to do is we've got leaky valve cover gaskets, which is known on the Hemi models, and that's going across all the model lines that it's in. That's including the any of the cars themselves. What happens is those gaskets start leaking. So most people go in and they just tighten them down. It might work for the first time you do it, but it'll come back and leak again. And then when you replace them, none of your manuals will tell you this, but a little bit of shellac, Indian shellac, you can get a little can of it, a little jar. That Indian shellac works wonders. The Indian shellac will basically, you put it on, you put your rubber gasket down on top of it, it holds the rubber gasket to the valve cover, keeps it from turning. Because what happens is a lot of these, you put these in, those rubber gaskets will turn. Once they spin, you'll never know it. You'll think the gasket's on. Hey, I fixed the leak. Start the car. You're driving down the road, you start smelling oil. So some of the things we're going to get to. We are going to pull the front axle out of that Jeep. We're going to rebuild it right here on our bench. We're going to show you guys how you can do it at home with basic tools. Some of this stuff is not as hard as you think it is. But some of it is. Some of it is very technical. We're going to get into this with the Volvo back here. We're going to show you that, you have to do things right and take your time to make sure they're perfect. Because you only get one shot at it with this car because it's an interference motor. And what an interference motor is, if a lot of you guys don't realize it is everything is timed perfectly like a Swiss clock. Everything works like this. If one thing comes off track, your valves hit your pistons. Does that mean the motor's trash? 90% of the time it is. We've rebuilt them before. I've bought Volvos before that timing belt was bad. And I bought them knowing it was bad. And I've had to replace a piston or two. It can be done. But it's time consuming. And at the time it was a C70 that I did it with. So the car was worth the money. The car was worth $15,000, $16,000. And I think we got the car for $1,500. And it was I think we put $1,200, $1,300 in the repair. Doing all the work ourselves though. If you took that to a dealer, you'd never be able to do it. The cost would be worth more than what the car was. So, but we want to show you guys how you can do Volvo timing belt in your garage. Parts for this thing, if you buy them, in some of these places online, or as I mentioned earlier, SVP Euro, timing belt and pulleys and everything else, I think it's right around $200. And the water pump's fairly cheap too. You can get the water pump for between $40 and $80. And that's the same for the 2.5s. This is the 2.9 dual turbocharge here. And the turbos on this one, we're not going to have to tear into them, unfortunately. Well, I guess, good for us, but unfortunately for you guys, we're not going to be able, not going to tear into them because they were just recently replaced by the previous owner. But we will be picking up some other Volvos, and we will be going over, you know, the turbos in them. You know, a lot of people don't realize that you can actually get a really good sports car with these cars. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of guys out there on the European scene that know what these cars can do. You know, they're very underrated. You know, not as popular as, say, the Subarus and some of the BMWs and some of that stuff. But, you know, they always look at the Volvos as a family car. But you get out there and you get some of these Volvo wagons with the turbocharged motors when the guys have gone in there and they've messed with the turbos and they messed with the throttle body. They're sleepers. They'll take off that line and they'll leave you sitting there going, wow, a wagon did that? So yeah, you know, but we're going to cover some of those. We got some other tools that I'll show you guys coming up here soon that if you work on European cars that you should probably have that basically deal with timing belts too. You know, a majority of the work on these European cars, you know, where people sell them cheap is timing belts. I mean, Volvos especially, you can find them all over the interwebs, and they're selling them for cheap because of why? They need a timing belt job. And the sad part is a lot of times the dealer will do the job cheaper than even a local mechanic will, because the local mechanic hears Volvo, oh, European, hard to work on. No, not always. You know, just like your Mercedes, a lot of the older Mercedes, you'll see a lot of the YouTubers out there working on them. Reason being is they're very well made cars. And yeah, some of the parts can be expensive, but once you get into tearing them apart and realizing how they're made, they're very easy to work on. You know, yeah, some of the stuff you don't want to get into with the suspension systems on the Mercedes, especially the newer ones. Some of the suspension systems on the Land Rovers, that type of stuff. But, you know, Mercedes, you can convert that system over and basically put it back to regular shocks and struts. There's ways to do it. You know, but, you know, once you start messing with these cars, and especially, you know, Volvos and Volkswagens, BMWs, those things, you start seeing that they have similar problems. And it's all on how they're made, and a lot of them share parts. I mean, you know, a lot of people that aren't in the car world don't realize that Audi and Volkswagen share a ton of parts together. Chrysler and Mercedes share a lot of parts together. You know, and a lot of people don't realize that. So, yeah, you got to do your research nowadays because, yeah, you might buy that part. I learned a while ago. You know, we had a Jaguar XJ6 that we worked on about 6 years ago, and it had an ignition module. And this ignition module looked just like a distributor. They call it a spark module, I believe. And it works just like a distributor. You loosen the bolt, you turn on it, and set everything in time and everything else. Here's one thing I learned. I tried to buy that part here in the United States. Everywhere I looked across the United States, $600 to $800. I simply went on to Proxy Server, went on the Tunnel Bear, linked myself to Google, and I Googled some breaker yards, because that's what they call them over in the UK. I contacted one, called them on the phone long distance, said, hey, I'm here in the United States. I need this part. The guy goes, oh, how many you want? We've got a whole bunch of them. By the time we did the exchange rate between the dollar and pound, I believe it was, and shipping and everything else, I got the part for less than $100. And it came in and was brand new, basically. And he said, whatever parts you need, let me know. I'll get them for you. So you got to work your contacts. You got to work your contacts because you got to remember, these cars are made in mass production over there. So where are you going to find the most parts? Not here. Here they're foreign. It's like going to Canada or Mexico and saying, give me a Budweiser. It's a foreign beer when you're in their territory or you're over here in their territory. So you got to put yourself in their shoes. Hey, where's it going to be cheapest at? Can you do that with Volvo? Yes. You can do that with Mercedes, Porsche, Audi, BMW, all of those guys. And you'll find you'll get your best deals. Yes, you may have to wait some time for the parts, but do you want to pay $600 or $800 or do you want to pay $100? So, and those guys over there will know what you're asking for because they deal with those vehicles every day. Every single day. You guys saw us do a door handle the other day on a Buick LaCrosse. Well, when I went searching for that handle, Oh, we don't carry it for Buick LaCrosse. No, we don't carry it. 06 to 09, all the same. You'd be amazed for an American car how many people didn't realize that the Chevy Cobalt, the Chevrolet Impala, both share the same handle. Now, because I was looking for one for Buick online, some of those prices were $40, $50, $60. The moment I switched over and said Chevrolet Cobalt or Chevy Impala, $12 and $15. Do your research, people. Do your research. Some of these things could be the difference in you deciding to keep your vehicle and fix it or turn around and sell it. And a lot of times you sell it and someone like me or someone else around here this world that looks for cheap vehicles, they find them and say, hey, I'm going to fix this. This car behind us here, we got this car for about 1/3 of what it sells for. Why? Because the guy was given a quote to fix the timing belt of almost $3,000 because they told him everything that needed to be done. Why? Because he went to his trusted mechanic. Sometimes your trusted mechanic can't be trusted. You need to do your research. I don't care if you take your car to the same mechanic every time. Do your research. This is why this channel's here, is to educate everyone into knowing what they need, what they don't need, what you can do, what you can't do. Do your research. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that still believe you need to do an oil change every 3,000 miles. Open up your service manual inside your vehicle, your owner's manual. Some of these newer vehicles don't need an oil change but 7,500 miles. Some of them don't need one for 10,000 miles. Follow the manufacturer's spec. Can't go wrong. Do what you need to do with it. Don't just believe the guy when you go to wherever to get your oil changed that, hey, you got to do it at this amount of miles. Do your research, people. Nowadays we have Google. We didn't have that stuff 15, 20 years ago. We have it now. Find out what you need to find out. There's a lot you can do. I mean, look at the cars that are being picked up at Copart and some of these other places right now that have very minimal damage. Very minimal damage. A bumper cover in some cases will total a vehicle out. Do your research. Look at why they want to total your vehicle out. If it's just because of the bumper cover, you can pick up a bumper cover a lot of times, paint it. I can order a bumper cover for 90% of the cars out there right now that are 5 years old or more. Paint it the same color, coming in shipped to me for $400 or $500. Less than that in a lot of cases. Already painted. Is the paint going to match 100%? Probably not, because they're painting it somewhere else versus here. Some cars have 19 different hues of white. But if I'm a person that didn't know how to paint, that didn't know how to do the body work, but I knew how to take the bumper cover off from watching a video or figuring it out myself, would I really care if the paint was off a hue or two? Probably not, because I could keep my vehicle, not have to go through the hassle of buying another one and getting rid of something that I might love or have an attachment to. Could be your first car. Could be a car you've always wanted. Now you can't afford to replace it if you got to get rid of it. Ask your questions here. If we can answer them, we'll answer them for you. That's why we're here. RT Repairs. My name is Robert. Reach out to us. You can send us a message. We have a Facebook page. You can send us a message there. Be glad to answer any question you have. And we look forward to seeing you guys the next time. Thank you.